Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Vishvaro Guratmeti Muchi Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome. Tripura, page something has updated here on this program. It's not giving, okay, at page 197. 197. Let's begin just verse 109. The vasanas. We are the Dattatreya was explaining the different types or class or categories of Jnanis. The highest, the middle class, the inferior class, the lower, and explaining that the Jnana is the same, but somehow the fruits of the Jnana are different according to different factors, several factors, including one's vasanas, one's mental tendencies and desires, and configuration of the three gunas. Some people, they are still too much attached to acting, and that can bring about certain even irritations here and there sometimes. And then in this verse, Dattatreya points to the fact that vasanas, not inimical to realization, are not weeded out by the best class of Jnanis, because they cannot seek new ones to replace the other ones. So this is interesting statement, I mean, why we need to replace vasanas. So one can live almost without vasanas, So there are some vasanas that are not going to hurt. They are not really in contradiction, in violation of Dharma. Therefore, one just let it be. But this depends on one's karmic condition, environment, some people, they are Jnanis, but they are involved with a lot of karma still. And then he needs vasanas to process all that karma, to play the rules and so on. So, but why they need to seek new ones? So if you don't have a karmic load with a lot of roles that need to be played, why not to just neutralize some old weeds, just and let it go without having to plant something on the soil, which is the mind. So just have a mind less crowded with vasanas, maybe keeping the vasanas, the basic vasanas that are necessary for living one's life in accordance with one's karma, prarabdha, or condition. So therefore, the old ones will continue. The old vasanas will continue until they are exhausted. And thus, you find among these Jnanis, some of them are highly irritable, some are lustful, and others pious and dutiful and active, and so on. So different configurations of Jiva-atmas. Everybody is moved by vasanas. We are organic, biological computers, and we are moved by our programs. Our programs are our likes and dislikes, our vasanas, our tendencies, our guna configuration, and so on. So we cannot avoid, but we can reduce the vasana load and live a more peaceful life. Don't you agree with this statement? What do you think?
Yes, definitely, Arlindo. However, when you mention the analogy of the field or the piece of earth that you clean, you just weed it. Nature, an empty piece of ground would naturally just fill up with weeds again because it's the nature of the earth to be covered. And likewise, will the empty mind just naturally fill up with the cosmic vasanas?
Yeah. Yeah, with superior vasanas such as everything is Brahman and I am Brahman, and all is good and all is beautiful. Yeah, and nothing can hurt me because I am the non-dual conscious existence. Yeah? So these vasanas can be there, but they don't really crowd the mind to the point of creating stress. That's my point. Just superior vasanas, just there at the background. And then overall your mind is not moved by binding vasanas. Even though aham brahmasmi may become a binding vasana, but it's a very subtle backgroundish kind of vasana, which does not create any mental disturbance in the mind. You understand? Very nice analogy. Thank you, Mark. Now, the lowest order of Jnanis is still under the influence of the vasanas operating the minds, know that there is no truth in the objective universe. So, because he is a Jnani, she is a Jnani, she knows. So, I am Satya, the world is Mithya, my mind is Mithya, the body-mind is Mithya. So, but here it says that the lowest class of Jnanis, they are still somehow under the influence of those vasanas of their minds. They know that the objective world is just a superimposition, is a mirage, but still the mind is challenged again and again by the namarupas. I know it's not real. I know it's not a big deal. I know it cannot affect me, because it happens within me. But still, the mind is still under the influence of what's going on. So that is the best way I could comment on this based on my experience as well, So the universe is manifest. Sometimes I like, sometimes I doesn't like it. So the degree by which my mind is disturbed by adversities points to the fact of me being a lower or middle class Jnani, you understand? So the lowest, the mind is still affected by likes and dislikes. But their samadhi is not different from the other two classes. So this is, again, it's a strange statement, because what is samadhi? Samadhi is a mental state in which likes and dislikes were largely neutralized by jnana. So if the mind is under influence of likes and dislikes, the samadhi, I have a hard time to understand that one samadhi, which is a mental state, is different from the other two classes, unless we take samadhi to be that aspect of human consciousness which just illumines one's experience of likes and dislikes. And then that is the samadhi that appears within each and every one of our experience. You remember the teaching, the illuminating factor before the engaging, the how you say, the liberating engagement with those thought subjects are activated. So their samadhi, this samadhi is not different. Let's see what more he says here. What is samadhi then? Samadhi is being aware of the self. If we define samadhi as I am Brahman and nothing can touch me, and then the remembrance, the continuous remembrance of that fact I am free, limitless consciousness, and I'm not affected by the experience of the body-mind. So all the three yanis have this knowledge. And this is the samadhi. It's a continuous remembrance that nothing can touch you. That confidence, as Ramji sometimes put it, This ananda. What is ananda? Is it ecstatic bliss? No, it's a confidence that you are the self, you are free, limitless consciousness, and that is going to offset the adversities that unavoidably affect the body-mind, but does not affect you, since you have made a stand in consciousness as consciousness. So, and then it says, it should not be confounded with nirvikalpa samadhi. For this state of samadhi is very common and frequent, as has been pointed out in the case of momentary samadhi. So the nirvikalpa samadhi is often experienced, but we don't notice it. Spontaneously, frequently, it's there in the momentary samadhis, which is it is a sort of a nirvikalpa samadhi, which is experienced the aspect of human consciousness, which just illumines and reveals what it is, but without engaging the thoughts, objects, and the experience by themselves before ragas and vestas are activate, my likes and dislikes, are activate. So in that sense, this samadhi is the hard and fast self-knowledge, aham brahmasmi, that is going to be all the time present, okay? And it's present even when the mind is being influenced by likes and dislikes, by prabhada. The mind is affected, but then this yani, even the lowest order yani, immediately applies the knowledge. This is nididhyasana, application of knowledge, and again, against what? Against those mental reactions to pleasures, adversities, or pleasures, likes and dislikes. Does it make sense? Anything from you guys? Can you hear me?
I was wondering about, so samadhi here means that the identity has firmly moved from the body-mind to the self. But could the mind then just float on top, that like a boat on an ocean, just floating on top, and depending upon the mind being very changeable in some yanis, and the ocean being more quiet, the boat just, is that kind of?
This is a very good point. This is a very nice point. Thank you, because you are shedding some different light or interpretation to this statement. So the analogy of the ocean and the boat floating on the surface is very nice. So we are talking about the mind, and then the thoughts appearing within the mind. So thoughts appear within the mind, and the lowest order of yanis, are still under the influence of those thoughts. But those thoughts do not cancel their self-knowledge. I am consciousness of limitless nature, and the mind and the thoughts in the world appear within me, and do not affect me. So this could be a nice way to interpret the lowest order of yanis, which are still subject to thoughts and thoughts and thoughts, but not necessarily disturbing thoughts. So, but on the other hand, he pointed out before that that even the best class of yanis sometimes can be highly irritable, which is an indication that what is irritation? Irritation is when your likes and dislikes are not really met. You understand? So it is vague, those verse in the verse 109, he talks about the best class of Jnanis. They are still subject to be highly irritable and so on. So, but this is a nice interpretation. Okay, the to know your consciousness, and yet the thoughts of in regards to the world appear that may support your identity as the body mind, because that's the way I have interpreted to begin with. You understand? Because I went through that phase. I knew I was consciousness, but then the thought, you are the body mind, and you have now that you are young, you have the right to get what you want, you know? So those thoughts were challenging me in the beginning, and I was not in contact with Vedanta, and I was very confused. How can I know that I am consciousness and everything is consciousness, and yet be all excited about having my likes and dislikes met? You know, the jnana was already there. But there was I was under the influence of certain mental thoughts or activities that were causing disturbance, which was contradictory to my notion that now I should live in peace and eternal satisfaction, you understand? So this is maybe what happens, that it's very, at least with me in the initial stage, you know, that one is under the influence of one's likes and dislikes and experience mental disturbance. But Lin, you present the idea that in the mind of the lowest order of jnana, maybe there are many thoughts coming, but they are disregarded as mithya and I am satya, not causing any mental perturbation. That's another angle to analyze that, you understand? So I have analyzed based on my initial experience about 10, 12 years ago, okay? And then slowly, in my case, mental disturbance, which are mental irritation, which is attachment to my my ragas and dveshas, my likes and dislikes, you know, they started happening less and less frequently, less and less intensively, and my recovery was getting faster and faster. Yeah. So after all, we are animals with a lot of how you say, those vasanas that are very instinctive vasanas, you know. So that's all there is, to transcend our animal nature and embracing our God nature or Brahman nature. Everyone is experiencing Vikalpa Samadhi, but what is the use of such unrecognized Samadhi? A similar state becomes possible to the Hatha Yogas. In profound meditation, we experience an empty mind, just similarly with the state of deep sleep, and it's very pleasant, but you cannot recognize yourself as the ground on which the mind and the universe appears. So if you don't have the intellectual mind that you draw some conclusions, and then we have descriptions analyzing our deep sleep and our dream state and the wakeful state, so that we can understand what is the common denominator, the common ground for the three states, which is Turiya, in the Tripura Rahasya. I'm sorry, which is Tripura here in Turiya and in the Mandukya, because I'm studying the Mandukya because I'm gonna do the third chapter from the 7th to the 9th in São Paulo. So I was mixing up the two texts. So we need to have our intellect in its full capacity to understand the true nature of reality, you know. So the deep sleep and those samadhis, especially the momentary nirvikalpa samadhis, do not help, do not bring lasting benefit, but one may apply the experience to the practical affairs of life. Yeah, so you draw some conclusions from those experiences, and then you start applying it. This is, again, indeed, yes, an application of my understanding in regards to my human experience, to get to the bottom of what am I really. Samadhi can only be such and such alone. Samadhi can only be such and such alone. Sahaja Samadhi is meant here. So the last statement here is Samadhi can only be such and such alone. So I don't know exactly what it means, the author meant by such and such alone. There is only Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi is meant here. So non-dual Samadhi, all there is consciousness. Sahaja Samadhi is meant here. So it's a Samadhi based in the knowledge. Aham Brahmasmi, I am free, limitless, infinite conscious existence. So that's the nature of the samadhi that really counts. Okay, a mind which was properly resolved by the means of jnana. Oh, there are some commentaries here. Samadhi aspirants may be jnana yogis or hatha yogis. Okay, so we have the jnana yogis that are searching for sahaja samadhi, and we have the hatha yogis, which almost invariably are looking or seeking nirvikalpa samadhi. The former learned the truth from the scriptures, and the guru cogitates and understand that those statements clearly. Later, they contemplate on the truth, and they gain self-knowledge, and they gain samadhi, a mind properly pacified or resolved by the means of knowledge in regards to one's true nature. And again, so why this knowledge pacifies the mind? Because once you shift your identity from the body-mind to consciousness, so you are safe, you're secure, because there is nothing other than you, and you are not subject to any limitation, not even time and space. No? You are everywhere and eternally, no? Without beginning and without end. The hatha yogis are of two kinds. The one intent on eliminating all perturbations of the mind starts with the elimination of the non-self and gradually of all mental vacillations. This requires very long and determined practice, which becomes his second nature. The practice becomes one's second nature, and the yogi remains perfectly unagitated. This is a good paragraph here. So the first level of hatha yoga, I relate to this because when I try to be a yoga meditator, I had to deal with a lot of mental perturbations, mental agitation. Yeah? And then the first stage is to try to calm down the mind, to purify the mind. Yeah? So I did that by developing a one-pointed mind with vipassana, and then later on with the meditation suggested by Nisargadatta Maharaj, as you know. Yeah? And then it's the hatha yoga starts with the elimination of the world, the thoughts in regards to the world. The world, as we know, is the not self. Matter energy is the not self. It's a superimposition on consciousness, which is the self. So I want to eliminate thoughts and the world from my mind. And then gradually I produce an empty mind or a silent mind, free of of mental vacillations. Yeah? This requires a very long and determined practice. It is a pain to try to purify disturbed mind by the means of meditation, willpower, to control the mind without the help of the logic as present in Vedanta, logic of the Mithya and the Satya, karma, dharma, upasana, and Jnana Yoga. So without the knowledge, it requires tremendous effort, and most people stops in utter frustration after years or decades. You understand? It becomes, but it's possible. Long and determined practice will turn the mind unagitated, pure, okay? It is possible. And in that case, the practice itself becomes one's second nature. So I practice. What is my practice? My practice is to produce silence, peace, through mental control. And then that silence, that peace becomes my second nature. The other practice, the 6 preliminary exercise, and then controls the breath, pranayama, until he can make the air enter the Kundalini channel or something like that. So this is another branch of Hatha Yoga. Since the earlier effort is considerable only to control of breath, there is a heavy strain which is suddenly relieved by the entry of the air in the Kundalini channel. So if you want to follow this effort of Hatha Yoga, controlling the breath, and there are several techniques to do so, and then you may come to a point that there is a heavy strain which suddenly relieves, and that is, I have no experience with Kundalini. I don't know if you guys did have, but it's said that there is a shift of experience in a way. It's like a relief, in the moment that the pranas somehow they flow freely through these channels. The resulting is an incredible, beautiful happiness, which is compared to that of a man suddenly relieved of a pressing load in his back. So it is appealing when we hear those things, They say, wow, I'm going to have an extreme experience of great pleasure, bliss, ecstasy, compared to, something like, but what is the problem with this? It's not lasting. It's not lasting.
It's what I used to hear of as the method of exhaustion.
Very nice. Yeah. So we Vedantins, we believe that there is a permanent solution which does not involve any sadhana, action, experience-based sadhana, but a knowledge-based vasana, study and contemplation, knowledge-based sadhana that is going to take care of the root cause of the mental disturbance, perturbation. So this huge happiness that comes from this blast of energy producing incredible bliss and ecstasy, they are good. But what is the problem? You remember Ranjit telling this story, Mystic by Default. It's a wonderful book. And then he has all these incredible explosions of energy providing him with incredible bliss. But then he was frustrated later on because he was empty-handed. And then he had to go to India and go through all those hardships to try to get back that experience. Yeah? And even if he got a little bit of this and that experience back, which is never really something that can be duplicated, he got to the understanding that that things are not permanent. You know, it fades. And then he met Shimaya and he met Vedanta. Yeah? But why not? Huh? But, you know, if I have a limited amount of time and energy, and I'm attracted to have a Kundalini experience and have a momentary experience of incredible ecstasy and bliss that may last for a day or two, okay? But I have a limited amount of energy, and I know that if I get to open that channel and have that experience, you know, the result is going to be impermanent. And then on the other hand, I have the path of the Upanishad or Jnana Yoga, Vedantic Jnana Yoga, which says, so it's likewise a long way to go, because the mind needs to be prepared to understand it and internalize and own those statements. But if you get there and then you have pacified the mind, oh, but I want to have an ecstatic experience, and then you have to go to Hatha Yoga. You value more a wonderful, you know, transcendental experience more than peace. Jnana Yoga is going to produce peace. You understand? Peace and confidence and satisfaction. But if you want to have extreme experience of happiness in the spiritual world, so be a yogi, you know, and search this extreme experience of ecstasy, yeah? Which are not permanent. So an intelligent person is going to scale it. Oh no, I'm so tired of the peaks and the valleys, peaks and valleys. I want just to live in peace, you know. Since the earlier effort is considerable only into control of breath, that is a heavy strain, the result is happiness is compared to a load that was removed. His mind is similar to that of a man in a swoon or a state of intoxication. Both classes of Hatha yogis experience happiness similar to that of deep slumber. What is deep slumber?
Deep sleep.
Deep sleep, okay. I would say that it's different, because deep sleep, we don't experience any extreme pleasure, you know? But with this mystical experience, people are said to experience incredible. And a lot of people remains afterward frustrated, because now they have to come down to the level of human experience, and they're still self-ignorant and still craving, attached to wanting to repeat this or that experience. A Jnana Yoga, on the other hand, let's see what they say, has theoretical knowledge of the self, for he has heard of it from the scriptures and the guru and learned it. So he has further cogitated upon the teachings. Therefore, the veil of ignorance is drawn off from him even before the consumption of samadhi. Even before the mind is nicely established in sahaja samadhi, peace, which is not dependent on one's prarabdha, the peace that comes from this hard and fast self-knowledge, he has already removed a big load of self-ignorance concepts, okay? Even before the samadhi is a perfect state of peace. But he needs to go into the Jnana Yoga, the Upanishad Jnana Yoga. He begins with the intellectual knowledge, and then he contemplates it, cogitates it, removes any possible doubts, and then internalizes it until this knowledge is his own knowledge, direct and immediate knowledge. I know what I am, and I am free from the body-mind experience. So the substratum of consciousness, free from thoughts of external phenomena, is distinguished by him like a mirror reflecting image. Furthermore, in the earliest stage of samadhi, he is capable of remaining aware as absolute consciousness, quite free from all blemishes of thoughts. So we are comparing the Yin Yoga with the Hatha Yoga. And the study and the internalization of these teachings are going to produce self-knowledge. The veiled ignorance is drawn off, even before the mind is purified to experience Sahaja Samadhi overall state. The substratum of consciousness, which is free from identification with thoughts in regards to one's likes and dislikes, free from the belief that those thoughts, objects in respect to the world have some value and they have some real fundamental value to add more freedom or joy to me. So the substratum of consciousness, which is the very fundamental nature of the mind, free from those bits and pieces of ignorance in respect to believing that the external phenomenon is something other than myself. What it means, I have understood it, but still here and there I am deceived by the notion that the world outside there, meaning to say duality, exists because it is something other than myself. So, no, it's not that. The substratum of consciousness, free from thoughts of external phenomena, is distinguished by him like a mirror reflecting image. So the mirror never takes, in analogy, the image to be real. So the thoughts of the phenomenal world are never taken to be real. Furthermore, in the earlier stage of samadhi, of the self-actualization or the fruits of self-knowledge, the early stage of reaping the fruits of self-knowledge, the Jnani is capable of remaining aware as consciousness, although under the influence of certain blemishing thoughts or all blemishes of thoughts. So similar concept. Whereas Hatha Yogi cannot remain in such a state. What state? Sahaja Samadhi, natural Samadhi. The Hatha Yogi cannot remain in such a state as the Jnanis Sahaja Samadhi. Both the veil of ignorance and perturbation of thoughts are removed. Whereas a Hatha Yogi cannot remain in such a state, in the Jnanis Samadhi, both the veil of ignorance and mental perturbation were resolved. In the Hatha Yoga Samadhi, though the self is naturally free from the two obstacles, yet it remains hidden by the veil of ignorance because the ignorance was never addressed. It's just experiencing Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So that is the distinguish. We know it very clearly by now. The self is naturally free from the obstacles, but it remains hidden. The self is free, but the identification with the self is not established because self-knowledge was not gained by Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So it remains hidden. The free, limitless nature of the self, or the free, limitless nature of the true nature of the mind, is still covered by the veil of ignorance. But this veil of ignorance is torn off by the Jnanis in the process of his manana and nididhyasana. If asked what difference there is between the samadhi of the Hatha Yoga and deep sleep, it must be said that the mind overpowered by deep sleep or deep ignorance is covered by a dense darkness in sleep, whereas the mind being associated with sattva, the quality of purity, acts in samadhi as a thin veil for the self-effulgent principle. This is a nice analogy. So in deep sleep, the ignorance is so deep, and there is so much tamaguna that somehow we hardly can gain any insights into our true nature through that experience, you know. It's a dense darkness of tamaguna. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the Samadhi of the Hatha Yogi, there is a veil of ignorance, but it is it's very thin, you know, because there is Sattva Guna operating there. Sattva Guna is going to offer a certain reflection, but still there is a certain veil. But that may be explained the difference of the Jnani Visavasana for Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He enters Nirvikalpa Samadhi, as we have seen in this text a few months ago, enters in this with the self-knowledge already, you know. I am limitless consciousness, and I'm going to have a good sleep. In that sleep, there is more of the element of the experience of Ananda, which is the limitless nature of the self, because the intellect is not completely covered as in deep sleep. So there is a thin veil. And with the knowledge, you enter it with the knowledge, and you come out with the knowledge, and there is a certain degree of experience there, which allows the Swami to say, oh God, I love it. I love to merge in my limitless nature, you know. And the self may be compared to the sun obstructed by dark and dense clouds in deep sleep, and by a light mist of vapor in samadhi. For a Jnani, the self shines in its full effulgence like the sun, unobstructed in the heavens. So when we fly in high altitude, you will see that there is only sunshine, the clouds are below, and the Jnani has a similar experience in the sense that all knowledge and all ignorance, you know, is seen objectively from the standpoint of I consciousness, and all knowledge and all ignorance appears within me, and objectively I know this is all mithya. This is how the sage, you guys feel free to contribute with your brilliant commentaries as well, additions. This is how the sages describe samadhi. Having spoken of the Jnani samadhi as approved by the sages, Dattatreya proceeds to prove its unbroken nature of consciousness of the self. That's why this samadhi is the one suggested by the great sages of the Upanishads. So again, what is samadhi? Again, samadhi is absolute knowledge, uncontaminated by the belief that the objects can really affect you, change you, or add or subtract anything from you. Such is the state of the best Jnanis. Again, he's talking of different classes of Jnanis. Is absolute, hard and fast conviction. I am free, limitless consciousness. And the objects of experience, the world and the thoughts do not contaminate or affect or change me. Such is the state of the best Jnanis, even when they take part in the affairs of the world. Sounds good, huh? So you can be in the world and free of the world, as we hear. Be in the world, but not of the world. Be in the world, but free of the world. The blue color of the sky is known to be an unreal phenomenon, and yet it appears the same to both the knowing and the unknowing. So the blue color of the sky is always there. And we say it, oh, beautiful, today the sky is really nice and blue. So it is ignorance. But when you know your ignorance, and you know that ignorance is just for the practical aspects of life, you understand? But deep inside, you know that the sky is not blue at all. So we know the blue color of the sky is known to be unreal phenomenon, and yet it appears the same way to the Jnani and Anjani, but with this difference that the one is misled by the appearance and the other is not misled by the appearance. Well, I mean, as far as this analogy of the blue sky, whether you misled or you're not misled, it does not really affect your human experience. You understand? Because, okay, no, it's blue. No, it's not. Oh, this is philosophy, but it's blue because I perceive it as blue. It does not really affect the experiencing entity. No? So I'm misled to believe that's blue. I never looked into science, what they say about the true color of the sky and how this phenomenon appears. For me, it's blue, period. Okay, so you don't lose anything. You are not misled to the point of suffering. Yeah, but there are some other appearances that are going to create very negative impact to the misleading perception, such as the snake upon the rope. So if you see the world and you attribute reality to the world, and then you're going to deal with ropes and snakes. You understand? So favorable objects and unfavorable objects. So, and then the only way to resolve this problem is to see the world as Brahman, as consciousness. In that sense, the misleading experience of the Anjani, it causes great pain and suffering, the so-called samsara, in the Anjani. But for the Jnani, now the world of plurality and diversity of Namarupas are going to appear over and over and over again. But this knowledge, once this knowledge is more and more established, these different ragas and diversions or experience of attraction and repulsion towards objects of experience do not impact the human mind to the point of producing psychological suffering anymore. And this is all there is to self-knowledge. This is what moksha means on the practical level. Just as a false perception does not mislead the man who knows, so also all that is perceived which is known to be wise, to the wise to be false, will never mislead them. So false perception misleads a man, does not mislead a man of knowledge in respect to that phenomenon. So also all that is perceived, which is known to the wise to be false, will never mislead them. Same principle. So we have to remember that in media, most of all objective knowledge is subject to error or imprecision. You understand? So we should never believe that we're going to be 100%, have 100% accuracy in distinguish all ropes from all snakes. You understand? Because we don't have that power to deceive Maya, because the Maya tricks us through perception, and it gives us an impression of things that more often than not are not what it seems. But there is one knowledge, which is the knowledge that is not subject to error, and that is the goal of Vedanta. And we are having some analogies here, and the bad knowledge is to believe that the world is real, it serves the purpose to complete me because I am the body-mind. So this is how things appear. The real, of course, is real. It appears out there, the wakeful world. And I'm here, and the other objects are there. So duality is reality because I am the body-mind. So this is the way every human being perceives themselves and the world. But the wise is the one who, in spite of all evidence suggested by perception and inference, developed enough merits, spiritual credit, to get in contact with the scriptures, the Upanishad scriptures, and then he could correct those fundamental misleading perception or a concept that reality is duality and I am the body-mind. This has to be corrected. And it needs the scriptural knowledge and the guru to help to neutralize that misconception. Therefore, the world appears as duality, plurality, but no longer misleads the wise. Since the middle class of Jnanis, again, he's going back to the class of Jnanis. I hope that by the end of this chapter, we're going to understand which one is our class. Dattatreya is making great effort. Since the middle class of Jnanis have already destroyed their minds, there are no objects attracting them. Their state is known as the supramental state. So now this concept of killing the mind, destroying the mind, needs to be understood, because the mind needs to be functioning. So this destruction of the mind is to destroy the belief that the thoughts, what is the mind to begin with? The mind is nothing but thoughts, thoughts and inference. And the thoughts, as we know, is linked to the object. The objects and the thoughts, they are interconnected. One depends on the other. It's a cyclical thing. You cannot have a thought without the object, and you cannot have an object without the thoughts of the object. So this is happening in the mind of everybody. So a mind that was destroyed is the mind that understood that the world and the thought in respect to the world are only Brahman. Everything is Brahman in this phenomenon called the Jiva-Atma, which is the mind, in the world is happening within me through the power of Maya Ishvara. So this is destruction of the mind. So, and then their state is known as different, supramental, a mind that no longer is deceived by Maya. Is the mind destroyed? The ignorant mind is destroyed. But the mind is a wise mind now, or a wiser mind, who has the ultimate wisdom, which is Aham Brahmasmi. Is it stopping sometime the internet?
Just a bit, not too.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I
disturb.
have had problems lately here. Tomorrow I should go in town to try to talk to the electrical company to know what's going on. Anyhow, we are almost done. So far, so good. I missed my class in Portuguese yesterday because of these problems. The mind is agitated when it assumes the shape of those objects, which is mistakes for real, and unagitated otherwise. Therefore, the later state alone is supernatural. Again, the same concept. The mind is agitated when it takes the shape of the world, of those objects. So what's the mind? The mind is a thought. And the mind becomes the world because it's, quote unquote, assumes the shape of the world, of the object, and takes the object, which is but a reflection within one's mind, exactly like the reflections occurring in dream state. It's nothing but the mind. But it takes the object, takes the shape of the object. And it becomes agitated and stressed out and disturbed. But the mind also has the potential to become calm and unagitated when it does not take the word of object to be real, to the point of having no objectivity towards the object. Because what is going to objectify?
So is this what Ramji calls that firefly stage? Where it goes, that middle class of Jnani goes back and forth. Sometimes it's agitated when it's taken to be real, and sometimes unagitated.
Well, that example of the light turning on and off is an indication of self-knowledge, which was not properly assimilated and integrated. When the light keeps going on and off, my take is that in that condition, the Jiva-Atma is not taken to be a Jnani, but it is almost there, unless the knowledge is so hard and fast and clear, in spite of the mind assuming the shape of the object and believing that there is something in the object that could complete me. You understand? So the mind is agitated when it assumes the shape of those objects. The objects are taken to be real. So this is the condition of most of us in our process of Shravana, Manana, in Nididhyasana. Yeah? So the object shapes in the mind, and I want what I want, I don't want what I do not want, and that causes perturbation, agitation, stress, anxiety. And the mind is unagitated and calm and relaxed when I don't take those objects to be real, and much less serving the purpose to complete myself, because I understood that my completion lies in my own true nature. So the later one, in which the mind does not attribute reality and value to the objects and remains unagitated, is the state of the Jnani, or the supramental state, or Sahaja Samadhi, a mind which was pacified by this self-knowledge. Okay, my take is that the on and off link is more a state which precedes self-knowledge. Okay, And then and then with self-knowledge, as I was pointing out before, with self-knowledge, that based on my own experience, there is a potential for some objects of attraction influence the mind to the point that one finds us, oh my God, I mean, I have been there, I have done that, I'm not going to chase any of these, but the Jnani may experience a little bit of perturbation, but he recovers right immediately, very fastly, okay, very quickly. The mind of the highest order of Jnanis, though associated with objects, but without projecting reality and true value, intrinsic value, the mind of the highest order of Jnanis, sought to associate with object, knows them to be unreal, and therefore is not agitated, as it in the case with the Jnani, or the Jnanis of the lowest order, we could say as well, which, to my understanding, has already the jnana, but still is subject to mental agitation because likes and dislikes are still influencing the mind. Does it make sense, Lynn and Mark and Sylvia? Note, the mind of the highest order. So since the Jnani of the highest order can engage in several actions at the same time and yet remain unaffected, he is always many-minded and yet remains in unbroken samadhi. He is absolute knowledge, free from attachment to objects, free from the influence of one's likes and dislikes. His mind is equanimity. He developed dispassion. He does what he does according to one's nature, but with no attachment. There is vairagya operating in spite of whatsoever several actions. But here there is a concept that Jnani of the highest order can engage in several actions at the same time. I think he's just pointing to the fact that actions are not going to bound the Jnani of the highest order, or not going to give him even a little bit of misleading reactions or belief or mental perturbation. So he can do many things, even very, very actively busy like Shimaya used to be. And yet it does not affect him or her. So he is always many-minded. So I think it's pointing more to the fact that mind is not a problem. Mind is a tool and can be used wisely, And the unbroken samadhi, which is I am limitless Brahman consciousness of limitless infinite nature, is an unbroken knowledge. That unbroken meaning to say is never forgotten. And even if I play many roles and I have several actions in my day-to-day. So he is absolute knowledge, free from the belief that the objects have intrinsic value and may serve the purpose to further complete me, like sometimes we heard James talk about people who have self-knowledge, but why not add a little bit more bliss, and let me get a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and so on. I have now told you all that you need to know. Thus ends the chapter 19, the different states of samadhis. Okay. With the different states of Jnanis in the Tripura Rahasya. So this coming Thursday, we begin the Vidya Gita, the chapter 20. It's going to tell some nice sacred stories And I'm gonna read some more, and then we're gonna cruise through this. And we are not far from finishing this text. And then if you guys are up to it, I would suggest we do the Mandukya Upanishad, following the scriptures, following the compilations of Swamiji's talks on the Mandukya Karika. It's very profound, very beautiful. But we still have quite some ground to cover here. Anything else from you guys? Oh, Namada. Yes, Mark, go ahead.
I was going to say, vasanas have momentum, yeah? So even after jnana, the vasanas are going to keep running to a degree until their own momentum has played out. However, by continuing the vasanas, aren't we still feeding the vasanas and strengthening them, even though the jnana is there?
No, you don't. The vasanas, they stay for as long as they stay until they no longer come to the party, let's say. Exactly like you said in your first statement. You're going to reinforce and feed into them if you engage them, you understand? In either way, or just riding with it or fighting it, you understand? So you need to be very objective and let it go, burn it. I mean, you burn it in Nididhyasana, in the fire of the knowledge. You say, oh, you again, no, this is not a good idea, I don't, I'm not believing you, I don't go with you, and that's the way. And then if at the beginning it may disturb the mind a little bit, we keep applying the knowledge, and then those hardwired vasanas, they are going to have less and less negative impact, mental perturbation, because this mental perturbation may weaken our certainty of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge needs to be certain. The hard and fast expression that Ramji used, is of certainty, that nothing can break that certainty. You understand? So the vasanas in the beginning appears that it may weakens my certainty, but not. I mean, it's always good to keep that formula of Swami Paramarthananda. How often, how profoundly, how intense, and how quickly I just miss it as mithya. Understand? And then we are not feeding it. You say, oh, come on, come out. You see, last class we saw that some Jnanis even invoke the mind so that they can empty all vasanas. You remember we saw that last class?
Yeah.
Come over, come all of you, okay? I want to take another look, a very objective view of all of you, and let you dissipate your energy.
Okay, thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. So we meet again this coming Thursday. If it works for Lynn, great. And then we keep cruising. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Arlindo.
Thank you.
Bye now.